we got to say good afternoon to Grant McAuley. Grant, this team just continues to find ways. But what about the pitching today? I want to start with Elder and the pitching, the starting pitching specifically, and how good he was today against Philly.
Yeah, I mean, when you think you've seen Bryce Elder at his best, he manages to go out and throw another start where you kind of have to ask yourself afterwards, well, wait, is this the best I've seen him this year? Because he went head-to-head with Aaron Nola. He was able to really limit a Phillies offense. And keep in mind, both of these clubs came in having won 6 consecutive games, having the same record, I believe, in the last 15, at least before the series started. The Phillies can't gain any ground because the Braves have been so good. And one of the reasons the Braves are so good has been what they've gotten from Bryce Elder. But 7 strong innings, 99 pitches, couple of walks, only 3 hits, 6 strikeouts, and shutting out the Phillies. This is just another example of just how comfortable Bryce Elder is with his stuff and his pitch mix and his ability to execute. You may not look through all the advanced metrics and see all the spin rates and the high velocity fastball or the greatest of all this, that, or the other, but he just finds a way to, I feel like, work on the margins of the plate and kind of confuse and confound lineups. And the next thing you know, he's through 6 innings, and he just does it time after time.
I was looking back at his game log, had a couple of games like the Baltimore, Seattle Dodgers, all wins for the Braves, and just, he just wasn't the pitcher of record. He could have 8 wins right now, Grant. And I compared him a bit to Kyle Wright. I mean, I know that all the different acronyms that Wright didn't have, he had 20 wins, and this guy may have 15 wins by it when all's said and done.
Yeah, he might. And this Braves offense is certainly capable of picking up those wins. I believe, if I'm not mistaken now, the Braves are 12-4 in Bryce Elder starts. I may check the pitch log after we get off here. I hate to throw stats out that I may not be 100% sure on. But I'm here to tell you they win way more than they lose. And he's only had a handful of starts in which he has been knocked around, and the lineup has been able to really figure him out. So it's just a testament to the consistency that Bryce Elder's given them, and how much can we say about how much the Braves have needed him, to really step forward and step in. I was asked, I think, on the midday show yesterday about like my most pleasant surprise this year, and my options were Orlando Arcia, and I forget what the other one was, but Bryce Elder's name didn't even come up, and I think that's more so because at this point, we're kind of starting to expect it, which is a pretty crazy thing to think about for a guy who was Gwinnett's opening day starter.
It's 10-4 this year, including that 2-1 loss to the A's that he shouldn't have lost.
There you go.
Grant McAuley joining us, talking about our Braves. They win 5-1 against the Phillies. They're back home tomorrow against the Cincinnati Reds. Speaking of hot, they are hot, and we'll talk about that series in just a second. I want to ask you about Marcell Ozuna just coming up in a big spot once again. I did question whether Monty Harris should have made the move to go home in the 10th inning when Acuna hits the single, but I get it, ball placement, and he wasn't quite sure, so he second-guessed it and didn't make it home. But it didn't matter because Ozuna comes up and gets the big knock.
Yeah, I mean, that was the big knock, but let's just not forget that in that inning, the Braves might have been limited to just the 1 run, were it not for Kyle Schwarber fumbling and falling down, trying to catch Austin Riley's fly ball to left. And I watched the play over and over, and I'm not trying to pick on the guy because I understand it's necessity that he's out there because they can't use Bryce Harper in their outfield, which means Bryce is DHing and Schwarber's out in left field. And clearly in a scoreless game in the 10th inning, you can't just take him out as a defensive replacement when he's your leadoff man and one of your most powerful hitters. So you stack all that stuff up, and what does it mean? Well, you're going to have to live and die by some of the things that come with Kyle Schwarber's game. One of them, strikeouts. He punched out a bunch in this game, but that was an ill-timed poor play in left field on a ball that should have been caught without a dive. And that opened the door. 2 runs come across, and then Marcell Ozuna just really busted it open with a 2-run homer. So it was a fortunate inning for the Braves in that there was a bad play that was made, and that is one of those things that kind of helps you out. If you were just kind of curious about the base running of Harris, I kind of understood. You don't want to get doubled off if it's a liner that gets caught by Trey Turner going up the middle. But, yeah, it seemed like for a moment that might be one of those what-if scenarios that you wish you had it to do over again, but you'll never know. Whereas now we know exactly what happened, but thanks to Kyle Schwarber and Marcell Ozuna.
And that's just it. I mean, that's why I felt comfortable about us being able to handle the Phillies because they always seem to self-destruct defensively. Didn't happen last year in that divisional series. So you beat their ace. And now, as Carl mentioned, you get the Reds coming up, and the Reds are on a tear. Carl and I were looking at the numbers. You got to go back to like 1899. I was blown away when Carl told me earlier. I figured like the Big Red Machine would have had like the kind of win streak they're doing now. And Joey Votto's been the big catalyst coming back off the injured list.
Yeah, no, he's certainly a big one, but I think that when they brought up Ellie De La Cruz, their top prospect, and the things that he's been doing, hitting tape measure homers, great speed. And when you're getting a little comparison for being a young player to come up and make an impact like a Ronald Acuna Jr., that's something to excite the Reds, not only their lineup, their fan base, but everything that's going on around there. But getting Joey Votto back, that's certainly huge for them to have his all the things that he brings to that club as kind of the elder statesman. And, he's not a bad hitter either. So when you're able to make that kind of ad, it certainly helps. But a lot of things have just kind of come together for that Reds club in a division that is very much up for grabs. I'm not going to tell you that this win streak changes the whole course of the NL Central, because weirder things have already happened this year, but it certainly goes a long way towards giving the Reds a reason to think, why not us? If nobody else is going to step up and win this thing, we got a shot. So as I said, before, maybe this becomes a club all of a sudden that instead of selling off pieces at the trade deadline, they're looking to add a little bit. And that's the intrigue, I think, of the expanded playoffs as well, to get a little bit further down the road with what this win streak could really mean for the Cincinnati Reds.
Grant, what's up with Sean Murphy? We saw him pinch hit, but apparently Snit said he's not going to start on Friday. Is he completely healthy or not?
I think he's close, and the Braves are just going to give him a little bit of time. And there's a big difference between having to kind of nurse him through a 4 or 5 game stretch. And, I mean, the rainout helps the Braves not have to miss Sean Murphy for an extra game, so that's kind of an added bonus. But you didn't want to have to shut him down for 10 days if you felt like you could get him back in 5. And I think that's kind of where the Braves are right now. Chadwick Tromp would have caught today had the game happened yesterday. So when you look at it overall, if they're comfortable enough to send him up there to pinch hit, I think that we're kind of out of the woods with the real concern about needing to put him on the injured list, because clearly if he's pinch hit, you can't backdate it anymore. So I think they've gotten through what they need to, but the Braves have long been a club that, hey, you got an injury, feeling good, feeling ready to play, let's give you one more day. I think that's kind of what it is for Sean Murphy.
We were talking about this yesterday, Grant, and I think Carl and I both agreed. If it came to it, I don't want to lose Travis d'Arnaud this year. I know that, with Murph obviously banged up right now, it's kind of obvious, but do you think there's any scenario where they would move on from Travis in the off? I mean, if it came at the trade deadline?
No, I don't think there's any chance of that happening. I mean, they loved bringing him back and putting the option on the contract as well to have him around for a couple of years. He's done everything that they could have possibly imagined coming in, and I've been actually talking to a good amount of folks around the Braves. I'm working on a piece for the Marietta Daily Journal that should be out very soon about just how important the Braves catchers are. And one of the guys I wanted to talk to at length was Travis d'Arnaud, because I feel like he has been a steady hand that has come in and really fit this system, really helped out these pitchers. He's turned himself into an all-star level player. And I know that while you look at it and you're like, okay, well, they got depth. Can they deal from that depth? I would be afraid to upset the apple cart on a number of different levels, including the team leadership and the productivity, and not just letting a good thing go just in the name of trying to get something else. I almost feel like, I don't know if the phrase is too cute, if that gets used too often when you're making a trade, but it does feel like one of those things where if the Braves did decide to do that, it might be at the very least a little bit of counterintuitive.
You like the way the rotation shakes out in this series with the Reds?
I think it'll work. I mean, it's the best that you can do, I feel like, and given the opportunity to maybe give a little bit more rest to Spencer Strider and a Charlie Morton by kind of banking some days, especially heading toward the All-Star break, is not a bad idea. I know this Reds team is young and they are on a run, but you got to feel like your guys, A.J. Smith-Shawver, Jared Schuster, that they can do some things in this series to at least keep the game manageable, because that's what they've been doing lately. And the Braves offense always seems to have a big say on who's going to win a baseball game. So I feel pretty good about what they're doing there. And the bullpen has really started to come together. So if you do have a little wobbly, rotation situation for a day or two, you now feel a little bit more confident, I think, that this bullpen can withstand that.
All right, Grant, before we cut you loose, obviously bullpen, I asked you about Bryce Iglesias. So maybe it is just simply a blip on the radar and he's fine, and you just can't find 100-mile-an-hour pitchers everywhere, and this is going to be our guy, period.
And I think that he should be, and unless or until he proves to you that he just simply cannot get it done. Everybody's going to go through it once in a while. Should that stop them from maybe going out and getting some other guy that has been closing for another team that may not be in the playoff race? Absolutely not. That's how they got Bryce Iglesias. They went out and plucked him from the Angels, even though they had Kenley Jansen. So you could still see a similar deal like that, because it never hurts to have multiple guys in close games, have experience closing games. I know Aroldis Chapman's probably going to be very popular at the trade deadline, and I'm not saying that's the one and only answer, but that would be a nice arm to put in there from the left side that could give you a little bit of flexibility with your 8th and 9th innings if you need that. And that's what the playoff teams need. That's what the Braves are going to be looking for, I think, is that kind of injection into the bullpen that could just help put them over the top.
One other thing before we let you go. The pitch clock today was crap. And if you didn't see it, okay, we're talking about Travis d'Arnaud, and I don't understand how it can be one way in one ballpark, Grant, and then another way in another ballpark, meaning the clock seems like it was faster in Philly than it is in other places we've played or even here at home. Can you explain it?
No, I can't, but I can tell you I talked about it the week before last on From the Diamond because the Philadelphia Phillies had petitioned Major League Baseball to investigate why their clocks seemed to be running faster than most of the other ones. I think that MLB felt that they cleared it up. I felt like it was a little bit quicker at times, but then I thought, okay, maybe it's just because I read the story. Then I saw what happened to Travis d'Arnaud today, and I just felt like that was such a bogus call for a number of different reasons, not the least of which is the caveat about the hitter needing to be doing this, that, or the other. I feel like it should be irrelevant, particularly when the pitcher's walking around on the back of the mound and is nowhere close to delivering a pitch. Why are we calling a batter out in the ninth inning of a game?
Yes.
It just shouldn't happen. So I guess my question is why? Why are we doing this? What are we doing? And will they address it in the offseason? To make a long story short, I think I'm about as frustrated as anybody else watching it, but probably not more frustrated than Travis d'Arnaud was.
I mean, just it's common sense. The pitcher's not ready to deal. So why are you putting the impetus on the hitter? Yeah, I'm with you.
That's a great question.
Yeah, d'Arnaud, if you didn't see it, he looks at the ump like, really? Like, seriously? It was crazy. Grant, great job. Thank you so much. Braves win today, guys. Big series as we head towards the weekend with the Cincinnati Reds coming into Truist Park. Grant, take care.